Hello and welcome to the Summer of Self-Love. I'm your host, Mia Saenz, and in this wonderful episode, you get to meet Kristen Kancler. And I love her self-love work. We were talking in the green room, as we call it, and she's going to share with you. It is a little bit further down, but I'm the talk here. But I'm really excited because there's some stuff in here that we haven't gotten to yet. So this is awesome. So welcome. It's so good to have you. We were
Thank
talking
you.
also,
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here.
yeah, and through messages, I was like, oh, you've come across my path again. I have to connect with you again. So I'm so glad that we did this. It's special that you.
I know the universe comes together and sometimes it's through the Facebook algorithm.
Yeah, it's perfect. It really is. So since all of us have been on a type of a journey that have been on this show, and the people that are watching it are on a journey, and will you share with us your first, it doesn't have to be your exact first, but can you share with us how you came into self-love? Some people come in being bonked on the head, and some people are just nudged slightly, but however it works, it's perfect.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that came up when you ask sort of that, the start of that journey of self-love, the first thing that actually popped up for me was so out of college, I didn't know what I want to do. So I just took like office administrative jobs and I hated them. They were so boring. They weren't challenging me. Like I wasn't expressing myself. I wasn't like creating anything. And I always had this passion for cooking. And there's always sort of following the typical thing we're supposed to do, like go to college, get a job, do the things. And I was like, I'm doing some of the things but they weren't calling to my heart. And so I would say that when I quit my job and moved to New York and went to culinary school, that was such a liberating moment because I was following my heart and I was doing something for me. It wasn't like it wasn't the path. It was like my first time sort of like breaking free of that. And just the ride, the thrill of like, oh my God, I'm doing this thing that I'm so passionate about. Um, that was where I got my start.
That's beautiful. I love that you didn't have to suffer to get there, because so many people, they suffer and suffer, and then they're like, there's got to be a better way. And so it sounds like you were pretty grounded to begin with, to even ask the question, it's not touching me in a certain way. What would it be like to have something different, right? And so that's really beautiful.
Yeah. Well, it was terrible being in like a mind-numbing, soul-sucking job and not knowing what I wanted to do and feeling like I have to do it this way. So it was
It
pretty
was pretty bad.
rough going. And then to make such a drastic change that I didn't see other people making, all of my peers, of course, my family before me, it was like, this is the path. And I was like, I'm gonna do something totally different. Um, yeah.
That's very cool. I love that. I remember when you said mind sucking, I was thinking about when I was younger. I tried a lot of different things. I was a nurse, I went to school, graduated, went into a facility for hospice, specifically for cancer, because my father died of cancer. And I also went to work at that facility where he was at, where he passed on. And so that just, it didn't seem to fit me, right? The reason I
Yeah.
talk about this is because we have young people too who are like, struggling to find that space. And so it didn't fit me. And then I started doing a bunch of other stuff, starting businesses and working at a bank and working my way up to lending. But as I was working my way up, I was an admin. And so I was taking care of someone else. And I knew
Yeah.
I'd be the best caretaker ever of that person, right? And so
Yeah.
when I with each business that I would start and stop, not for other people, but for myself, there was that thought, well, you helped somebody else excel. You can do this for yourself.
Mm,
But it didn't really work and stick until 15 years ago when I got into this line of work. So let's talk
yeah.
to the people that are soul searching for how to shift into a different space within their life, whether it's work or whether it's getting out of that blank space where you
Mm,
feel like, can you talk?
yeah. So for me, it's always about connecting to the body and getting deeper into the body. And even though I did not realize at the time, but I think I even said, like, I followed my heart, right? And so there was this, and there was a very like liberating experience, like somatically. Like I think we think a lot in terms of emotions or thoughts, and it's so powerful when we can add in that piece of the body. It's like when we get more present to the body, it's like, okay, what am I feeling here? Is it this like this tightness, this stuckness, oofs in my chest, or it's this like lump in my throat or my belly? And we can tune in to what is happening through our body, and it's so powerful to learn that way. And then when we can take the action that is like, ooh, like, mm, like this feels good somewhere inside of me, or like breaking through something. Again, when we feel the experience in the body, that's so telling and it's so connecting. And then, we're just, I always say, the more connected a woman is to her body, the more connected she is to her power. And there's just so many ways that we can experience that. And so I think it's so helpful on both ends. As I said, like when we're in that place of like, something doesn't feel good, this doesn't feel right, this isn't what I want, like, see where you can locate that in the body. There's so much more you can do beyond that, but that's a great start. And then similarly, what are the thoughts, the ideas where your body experiences that, like, ooh, this opening, or this like joy sort of bubbling up, and using our body. My whole thing also is like the body-led woman. Our bodies are teaching and showing and guiding so much all the time, but it's really learning to tune in and tap in. And that's been pretty hard for those of us who weren't taught that. Excuse me. And of course, being human, being a woman, there's lots of trauma that happens that has us disconnect from the body. We're taught to live from our minds and, be more intellectual and study hard and all of these things. But our wisdom is in our body.
I love that. Thank you. Our wisdom is in our body. Also, I want to talk a little bit. I know that it's one of your tools that you want to talk about, but let's bring it up now, because people who have had trauma and people who haven't had trauma or severe trauma still need to be aware of somatic work and the nervous system. Because until our nervous system is online, back to where it's calm, we can't even really absorb the information that we're taking in. So
Yeah.
when we are in back to basics or online or however you want to call it about the nervous system, when it's calmed and when it's not in overload, that's so beautiful to be able to witness ourselves being able to think clear, be clear, absorb the information, process it, contemplate it, and move forward. Will you talk to us about the nervous system?
Yeah, nervous system work really changed my life. completely changed my life. I started doing coaching work with women about 13 years ago, and I had some amazing tools and gifts. I had been through a whole struggle, 20 years of eating disorders and like body hate and shame and like some really intense stuff for a very long time. And so I was going to therapy, and I was, trying different modalities, and I was like doing the work. And then I had an experience that it was the most like full body, like cathartic release of, for me, it was the part of me that needed to control. Like I needed to be in control, total control freak. I needed things to be a certain way. Everything had to like be perfect. And that pattern was running my life. It had me up at all hours in the morning trying to make things perfect and, getting things to work. And I was like, oh dear, like this is a problem. And I had this experience of what I now understand to be a nervous system release and healing, where it literally like left my body. Like normally it's like, this was my like initiation one, it's normally not this intense, but I was like shaking and crying, and it was this thing was leaving my body. And just like you say, like we're not really able to be really like present with ourselves, with our lives, when we have these patterns or triggers running in the background. And I also want to speak, you spoke a little bit to trauma. And the way that I look at trauma is, there's big T trauma and there's small T trauma. So the big T trauma is like sexual abuse, kidnapping, rape, things like, physical abuse. And then the small T trauma is like not feeling seen, not feeling loved, feeling like you're never good enough. These are all like, smaller traumas that all of us have, and they live in the body. And, that has us, when it's uncomfortable to be in the body, because these traumas, these patterns, these triggers, they don't feel good. They don't feel good. We don't want to feel them. And so we go to our head, where we're taught to go, where it feels safer to go. And so that's why, once again, it's so powerful to get back in touch with the body, to be able to feel the things, to find the patterns, to find the triggers. Our bodies are guiding us always. And when we can do the work to release that from the nervous system, whew, it's a whole different experience of life.
And you get to be connected through your body in community,
Yeah.
right? Because we
Yeah.
can ask our body when we're in a space of the calm, we can ask our body questions. How do you like this? Do you want more? And have it respond and be a part of who we are. A very interesting thing that happened to me in 2020 when I had breast cancer, and I had shared with you that it was like this miracle healing. I recognized my husband had said to me, does your soul want to leave? And I was like, okay, I've got to now address this. We're speaking the same language again. And so I sat with it for a couple of days, and I recognized I had been so tired from my CPTSD, my early childhood trauma. And
Yeah.
and then also with trauma in my life, and some of the smaller T's actually turned into some semi big T's, and
Can do that.
big T's from when I was younger. And so I realized that I wasn't ready to go in that moment. And so I went out and I had a conversation with God, and how I do. Well, no, it had to be extra special. And so as soon as I was done, I knew that the healing was complete. Just knew it, just like any illusion is broken, right? And so
Yeah.
the next day, my body started to hyperventilate. Now, when you have cancer or any severe life threatening chronic illness, terminal or whatever. I was going into the spreading stage at that point, and
Mm.
um, your body hyperventilates just automatically, just as you're walking around, and you start hyperventilating. And so I said to my body, it's okay, we healed this. You're okay. And I've never hyperventilated since. And I have experienced cancer since. Again, after it left, it came back. Teach me another lesson. And so that is so powerful, to be able to communicate with our body and have our body respond and have us understand we are a part, right? So that connects us to our whole psyche, our body, mind, and spirit, because it's not just our body then doing whatever. Like when people are young, they work out and they try to eat right, but are they actually connected to their body and listening?
Right.
Or not, right? Yes.
Right.
Be able to be in that space of connectiveness is
Yeah.
really, really powerful. And we can talk to our body, and we can support it in running further in a distance, or walking further in a distance, or swimming, or whatever we want, because we then, when it's calm and we know how to communicate with our body, we then treat it like a treat or a passion, right? Like, oh, I can do another mile. It's easy to do that, right? When we're in communication or whatever it is.
Yeah, that connecting in and communicating, and it's communicating, right? So we talk both ways. So we can ask a question, we can receive a response when we're tuned in. Like, oh, that's the message you're trying to tell me here. Okay. And then it becomes like a real relationship, right? We talk about relationship with your body. Well, what is that? It's like, okay, it's a two-way street. And how am I speaking to her and treating her? Am I listening to her? Am I receiving her wisdom? Um, am I, healing the things that come up that cause us to like freak out or hyperventilate, or, just go into these old patterns, and to come back into calm.
Yeah, the calm alive. Absolutely. Here's something that also I just want to share as a example. When I developed cancer the second time, they were trying to push me again to have a mastectomy. And I had been doing so much work for a couple years, the spiritual, the just everything, to be in alignment with myself, to understand. And I heard for the first time my body talk to me in a way it hasn't. It does make me cry because it's beautiful. I heard my body say, please don't cut me off. I love you. And that's when I knew that I was connected to myself. And that's when I knew I would do everything I could to heal this without having to have an amputation. So it's really beautiful when we are connected to ourselves. And it's, isn't it? It's a beautiful gift. Really beautiful. Would you like to, you can speak, but would you also like to share your tools with us? I just noticed the time is going by.
I know we could talk forever.
Yes.
I just want to say that's so beautiful. And that's the power of tuning in, is to receive those, like, that's so powerful. Yeah. Oh my God. I can feel that. Like, I'm getting emotional just imagining that. So I will use that actually to segue into one of the tools, which is talking to our body and opening up that channel of communication. And so it's, however works for each individual. But what I do is I tune in, I give, I touch my body, put my hand on my heart, on my belly, and tune in. I give gratitude. I speak to her. Sometimes I can just give, like, I love you. But if I'm seeking guidance, or I'm like, what is going on? I can, create the space. It's not just like, tell me, like, what's up? But really tuning in and like connecting, giving gratitude, giving thanks, letting her know I'm here, I'm listening, and see what comes up. And it might be right there. It might take a little, back and forth. It might be, okay, well, I planted the seed of asking, and then you go about your day and something drops in tomorrow. But communicating with the body, huge. Another thing, so we've talked about like the calming of the body, which is such a like hallelujah. And one thing that I'm also really passionate about sharing with women is the creative power of our nervous system. And when I work with my clients, when I do work with myself, there's two ways that I do that. One is the deep rewiring work. So again, it's seeing in the body what's going on, what's that trigger, where does it live in the body, going back to the root where it came from, because I got to get to the root to be free of it, and then rewire that so that experience leaves the body and there's something new in place. And so it's healing and it's creative. You're creating new, empowering, beautiful, freeing patterns in your life. And the last one is activations. And so this is, when we look at the power of our nervous system, like if something's not happening for us, there's probably some way our nervous system is not available to receive it or to hold it. We're not familiar with it. We say we want like big amounts of money or big love or whatever. And if it's not happening, there's probably something in the body that's not available, because when we are available for it, we're a match, and then it happens. So there's ways that we can, and the way that I do this is with activations, get the body really familiar with that desire so that it can come in, and that when it comes in, we can hold it, because our system is like, I know this. This is good. This is like familiar. It's not like, no. Even if it's the thing we've been saying that we've been wanting.
Right.
So it's so important for women to know we have so much power. Our bodies are so powerful, and there's so much that we can do to heal and to create.
It's beautiful. Thank you. I really loved this with you today. Really. Thank you. Thank you for being here. It was beautiful.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's such a joy to be part of this.
It is. I'm so grateful you're here. Very, very grateful. And thank you all for joining us, and we will see you in another episode.